I hope you'll notice that in honor of the tea party, that I'm drinking tea and enjoying it. Every time I take a sip, I think of those brave people out there with the tea party. They're the front lines of trying to get this country back to its founders and the Constitution. Please explain 1 Samuel chapter 28, verses 9 through 21. Well, this is really a dilly here. I'm using old slang of my childhood here. This is not an easy one to explain. I'm going to seek to do it, but let me say this, that if you really want it explained, then get a hold of a copy of my book, Satan is Alive and Well on Planet Earth. It's all explained carefully in that. That book was written in 1972. It's more relevant today than it was then. This is a case of necromancy. That is, a person practicing the occult that calls up the dead. Now, usually a person doing that will get in contact, supposedly, with someone who's died. And using the power of demons, this does happen. Voices will suddenly appear saying that they're the ones that are dead, that this person seeking to talk with them or to communicate with them will hear. But it's fake. It's demons impersonating the person that is now dead that they're trying to get a hold of. Now, this woman is a witch, a practicer of necromancy, form of the occult, where she was known for calling up the dead. But we're going to see here that what happens is that God steps in and something happens, and she really sees the person that's come up, and it terrified her because she wasn't used to that. That wasn't what the demons did. They'd give the voice, but not the person come up. Now, let's read it, and I'll see if that'll make more sense. Then Saul disguised himself by putting on other clothes, and Saul was the king of Israel, the first king. He had done so many things sinful that the Lord had withdrawn from supporting him. He had withdrawn from him. God had warned him he was going to do that. So he disguises himself. He came to a woman by night. He said, "Conjure up for me, please, and bring up for me whom I shall name to you." But the woman said to him, "Behold, you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off those who are mediums and spiritists from the land. Why are you then laying a snare for my life to bring about my death?" Well, in the past, when Saul was walking with the Lord in fellowship, he did what the Lord had instructed him to do in his word, and that is to destroy the spiritists and the mediums and the conjurers, all of those practicing the occult, which is demonic. So she reminds him that Saul, not knowing he was Saul, had put these people out of the land. So in verse 10, and Saul vowed to her by the Lord, saying, "As the Lord lives, there shall no punishment come upon you for this thing." Then the woman says, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" And he said, "Bring up Samuel for me." Now, Samuel was one of the early great prophets, and he had been the one that had anointed Saul as king, and he was the one that the Lord spoke to Saul through. And now Samuel has died, and he wants this conjurer, this occultist, to bring him up. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice, and the woman spoke to Saul, saying, "Why have you deceived me? For you are Saul." So you see, when she used her incantations and she was going to bring up the usual voice, instead, God took over, and he actually sent Saul back from the dead to speak to this situation. And that terrified her. The voice coming wouldn't have terrified her, but the fact that that Samuel was sent back from the dead really absolutely terrified her. And she knew it must be Saul that was seeking him. So it says in verse 13, and the king said to her, do not be afraid, but what do you see? And the woman said to Saul, I see a divine being coming up out of the earth. And he said to her, what is his form? And she said, an old man is coming up, and he is wrapped with a robe. And Saul knew that it was Samuel. And he bowed with his face to the ground and did homage. Then Samuel said to Saul, why have you disturbed me by bringing me up? And Saul answered, I am greatly distressed, for the Philistines are waging war against me, and God has departed from me, and answers me no more, either through prophets or by dreams. Therefore I have called you, that you may make known to me what I should do. Now listen to this. And Samuel said, why then do you ask me, since the Lord has departed from you and has become your adversary? You see, Saul had kept disobeying the Lord until what God had warned him about took place. He was against him. He withdrew from him and became his adversary. And the Lord has done accordingly as he spoke through me. You see, the Lord had spoken through Samuel and told him exactly what was going to happen. For the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor, to David. As you did not obey the Lord and did not execute his fierce wrath on Amalek, so the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Moreover, the Lord will also give over Israel along with you into the hands of the Philistines, or the Palestinians. Therefore, tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. Indeed, the Lord will give over the army of Israel into the hands of the Philistines. Then Saul immediately fell full length upon the ground, was very afraid because of the words of Samuel. Also, there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no food all day and all night. And the woman came to Saul and saw that he was terrified, and said to him, behold, your maid servant has obeyed you, and I have taken my life in my hand, and have listened to your words which you have spoken. So now also please listen to my voice of your maidservant. Let me set a piece of bread before you, that you may eat and have strength when you go on your way. Well, long passage, but here's the essence of it. There are demons, and they're very real. And they do seek to deceive and to ensnare in sin believers and get them out of fellowship with God. And Saul committed the final great sin by not only disobeying him in things that God had told him to do, but now he has appealed to the occult to get guidance. And that was the final straw. And that's what this passage is all about. If you want more information on it, get a copy of Satan's Alive and Well on Planet Earth. I think Amazon can get it for you.